Hey everybody, it's Dr. Sam Robbins. Today I'm going to talk about anxiety and how it affects men versus women, the potential causes, and some solutions to help you or anyone you know who has feelings of anxiety. Now, I tend to actually be one of these people that has to deal with anxiety for many years, and it's probably one reason I don't do very many face videos. So with that said, it's been estimated that about a third of adults, right? That's about 33% of people experience anxiety disorders at various times in their life. In fact, it's the most common class of quote unquote mental disorders, which I personally think is a horrible label because it's not a mental quote unquote disorder. All right. It's just something we deal with. What's interesting is that younger people, especially teenagers, feel even more anxiety. What's super interesting is that women feel anxiety at twice the rate of men. That's 2 times more. So why do so many people, feel so much anxiety, especially these days? Why does it affect teenagers even more? And lastly, why do women feel more anxiety than men? Now, before I start, the main question is, what's the cause? Is it nature or nurture? Do you think it's mostly genetics or how you were raised? Let me know what you think below in the comments section. Well, the truth is that about 50% is genetics. Some people just have more anxiety than others. And you'll hear, parents saying that about their children at an early age. So yes, genetics plays a big role in anxiety. In fact, genetics plays a big role in everything. However, your life experiences also plays the other 50%. Now, if you have the genetics, have more anxiety than someone else, and you've had a lot of trauma in your life, and you're a woman, well, then you've got a higher odds of having more anxiety. But you know what? Who cares, right? Just because it's your genetics or life does not mean that you have to be labeling yourself as a quote unquote anxious person. By the way, there is a very fine line between anxiety and excitement, all right? So keep that in mind. They both feel the same, anxiety and excitement. So just know that sometimes when you're excited, you might think it's anxiety and it's not. Now, one thing that's very important to know is that anxiety tends to happen or comes about because of what you focus on in the future. While, for example, depression can be linked to what you focused on in the past. And yes, I'm making generalities, but you get the point. For example, people who have feelings of anxiety usually start to think about what if something bad happens, in the future outcome. And I remember when I was younger, it was the same thing for me. I wanted to go up to a girl, for example, and talk to her or whatever. And, I'd get very anxious because in my head, I start to think negative thoughts such as, oh, what if she's got a boyfriend? Or, what if I have nothing to say and I blank out? Or what if she laughs at me or something silly like that? And then the more negative thoughts I had about what if this or what if that, some bad ending, the more I stacked these negative thoughts on top of each other until I had so much anxiety that I ended up not even approaching the girl. Then, unfortunately, I start speaking negatively, about myself to myself. And I think, dude, you're such a loser, blah, 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 blah. And basically, it was a really bad habit of mine. While my cool friend, he would just go up to any girl and start talking about nothing. He wouldn't even think about it. And a few minutes later, maybe he'd get her phone number. And I'd be shocked. I then mentioned to him, hey, what if she had a boyfriend? And what if, you ran out of stuff to talk about and so on and so forth? How do you do that? Blah, 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 blah. And he'd look at me like a crazy person and would say, dude, I just wanted to say hi and get her phone number. What's the big deal? It's not the end of the world. I didn't ask her to marry me. Dude, you need to chill out. Words of wisdom to live by, all right? I need to just chill out and not give it so much thought. So the negative what if about the future will cause you to see a negative outcome, all of which will cause negative changes in your hormones and neurotransmitters and then heart rate and blood pressure and so forth, all causing and increasing feelings of anxiety. Thus, what you focus on expands. And this is a very important concept to remember in life. What you focus on expands. Now, going back earlier, remember how I said teenagers and women tend to have more anxiety? Well, one reason for this is due to hormones, and more specifically, hormonal fluctuations. Yep, the kind that you go through, when you hit puberty and your hormones are all wacky all over the place. And yes, the kind that women go through each month because of their menstrual cycles. Again, massive fluctuations in hormones. By the way, guys with low testosterone have more anxiety than guys with higher testosterone. So yes, hormones play a big role, and that's because hormones also affect important neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine. Now, let's circle back to what I had said earlier regarding men versus women and how they deal with anxiety. You see, women tend to cry more when they're dealing with anxiety. They also tend to express themselves, verbally and emotionally, maybe with their girlfriends or a therapist and so forth. They get it out differently. While men tend to get angry to let out their anxiety, all right? They bottle it up instead of speaking about it. Their anxiety builds, especially if a man doesn't express emotions, and it can lead to explosive anger. So again, that's a major difference between men and women and hormones, and I'll get back to it later. Now, what else plays a major role in anxiety? Well, diet is one of them. Eating junk food, processed foods, lots of sugars and carbohydrates can cause negative hormonal changes and thus cause anxiety. Again, hormones. In fact, one of the best diets for people who do have extreme anxiety or even depression is a true ketogenic diet or very low carb diet with good amount of fat. Again, a change in hormones due to, for example, insulin and ketones and cortisol, adrenaline, and so forth. Now, exercise also plays a very important part because, first of all, you get the anxiety out of your body when you exercise, and there's also positive changes in your hormones when you exercise, especially when you lift weights. In recent years, they've also discovered how your gut bacteria plays a major role in your mood. Now, most of that feel-good serotonin, when people take all these Prozac-type serotonin reuptake inhibitor drugs and so forth, all that serotonin is primarily produced in your gut. This is really bad if you take antibiotics or have taken them. So having healthy probiotics is very important. And in fact, there are about 3 to 5 specific strains of probiotics that are scientifically researched to work to help with anxiety and depression. I've listed links below this video to the best probiotics, vitamins, and minerals and herbs if you're dealing with anxiety. Another important factor is breathing. Breathing is very important. When you feel anxiety, your goal is to exhale longer than you inhale. So for example, you can take a deep breath for 3 seconds, hold, and then exhale for 6 seconds. So inhale less and exhale more. In fact, there's a specific 4-7-8 breathing method that's awesome, and I've listed the link to that video below this one. Take a look at it after this. Now, exercise is also, again, great because of the positive changes in your hormones that I mentioned earlier, but proper sleep is crucial because of the lack of sleep, which most of us have, and I'm not a good sleeper. Well, it reduces melatonin production. It increases stress hormones and decreases sex hormones, such as testosterone and estrogen, all of which will most definitely trigger more anxiety. So I've talked about lots of various things, improvements, and again, below this video, I've listed lots of links. But I'll end today's topic by saying that just because you're prone to having anxiety doesn't mean you have to label yourself as an anxious person, all right? Yes, genetics and hormones, age, your sex and upbringing and lifestyle all play a big role in most of this, all right? But the thing is, you have control over a lot of this stuff, all right? Your interpretation of what happens to you matters. The meaning you give to something matters. Remember, what you focus on expands, all right? The meaning you give to something is important. And I'll repeat it again, what you focus on expands. So you need to strengthen your quote unquote positive attitude or your grateful muscles, all right? Which you do have control over. You just need to use them more often. People who have a lot of anxiety quickly go to that bad place or what if this and what if that and something negative. That you've learned to strengthen those muscles, all right? I had to personally stop myself, right? To be, to reduce that negative thought and then go to a more positive thought and be more hopeful. I had to work at it, right? So instead of saying, what if something bad happens? I focus on what if something good happens, all right? Obviously, I wasn't oblivious to something, but I improved my habitual attitude towards things. And yes, it took time, but it became a good habit. So there you have it. I've talked about a lot of different things. You may want to watch this video again, going through it and really taking it in. Let me know in your comments below, what you have questions about, what you thought was important to you, what you identified. And below this video, I've also put additional links to other topics and solutions and videos that will help you to deal with anxiety, whether it's chronic or temporary. So I hope this was helpful. Please share it with people who you know who have anxiety. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I wish you a very happy and healthy day.